Hi, everybody. I just want to thank you so much for coming to visit my blog post this week. Daniel and Heather were nice enough to come visit us out here in Yucca Valley from Dana Point. And so while he was out here, I thought, what a great opportunity to interview one of the best in the chiropractic biz. Please take the time to read up. We're not going to go fully into his background, so just make sure to read the little intro blurb. That'll fill you in on all the stuff that you need to know about who he is. But then we're just going to talk about like life and chiropractics and all sorts of stuff.
I love it.
Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. We're going to try to keep this short, but like we're pretty good friends, so like the odds that like we're going to just start yapping and it might go a little long are maybe likely. So just hang in there, all right? I promise we'll get around to some good stuff. So why don't you first tell everybody a little bit about, because you started your, I guess you could say like your career, or like your job life in education, in the education system.
Yeah.
So like what initially drew you to that?
So I'm going to go back to high school for just a second. This is a way longer story, but in high school, I had two friends specifically who would not have graduated if it weren't for my help with English specifically. Like I had to help them write papers. And when I transitioned into undergrad, my freshman year, I had a course that was all about the hidden curriculum, which another longer story in and of itself, but there's basically two curriculums being taught in school, one of which we know exists, the other one is what's called hidden curriculum. And so when I learned about this, I realized that part of the reason that my friends struggled in school, part of the reason that the ambitions I had for my life came from this hidden curriculum that I didn't know existed. So when I learned about it, I was like, I want to help break that and make other people aware of this thing that happens in schools that we may or may not know about, and most people don't know about it. And so it was kind of a natural progression of like, if I want to help people break the hidden curriculum, the way to do that is through school. And I was pretty good at helping my friends, like quite literally graduate high school, some of them. So those two things together, I'm like, why not teach something?
Yeah.
And so my options were English or PE. And everybody wants to be a PE teacher, so I went back to the school that I graduated. Yeah, it's like the best job ever. So I went back to the school that the high school that I graduated from, and I sat down with one of our assistant principals, Mr. Hurley, and instead of him telling me what he thought I should do between PE and English, he like walked me down to the PE department, and he's like, "What do you see in this gym?" And there was a class going on. And there were two teachers, and they were both older teachers. And I'm like, well, there's two teachers and two classes. And he's like, yeah, remember that. There's two teachers. And then he marched me to the English department, and he started literally counting the doors of the rooms of English teachers. And he's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or however many English teachers we had. And from there, he's like, you can become an English or a PE teacher, but these guys normally get jobs. It's really difficult to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
And so I decided, you know what, let's just stick with English. I was good at it, and that's kind of how I started.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then how long did you teach for?
I taught for 6 years.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was that transition like, or like what was the catalyst that kind of made you start thinking that maybe you wanted to get into like attend chiropractic school? Yeah,
so I was doing CrossFit. I actually had a friend early on in my teaching career. He said, hey, you need to check out this website, CrossFit.com. And I checked it out, and I realized like, oh, this is something that you can like do at home. You don't have to go to the gym for it. So I started building out a garage gym, and that's where CrossFit was at the time. So as I learned more about CrossFit, and they have all these resources for like nutrition, and I just kind of started actually exercising for the first time, and I enjoyed it. And I sort of started just becoming the health guy at the school that I was teaching at. So students quite literally are asking me like, why do you drink like these green juices in the mornings? Or like, why do you do this? And I would have students coming up to me that I didn't know who were like, Mr. Kimbley, should I eat this for lunch? Or like, should I eat this for breakfast? And I'm like, I don't even know who you are, but I would give them advice. So when I met Heather, she introduced me to our chiropractor, and I realized that the things I was teaching weren't necessarily true and accurate in terms of like what's actually healthy. And so I thought I had a pretty good idea.
Sure.
And then the chiropractic world completely transformed me, so much so. And again, this is like this could be a whole hour-long episode of me just talking about that piece of it. But two things happened. I started learning about why I felt so good getting adjusted by a chiropractor, and I never went to chiropractic care for neck pain or back pain. I went because I wanted to function optimally.
Yep.
As I started realizing, like, oh man, there was a level that I didn't even know existed within my own body.
Yep.
When that happened, I really started teaching more lifestyle stuff to my students, and I got to a place where it was completely incongruent. Like, I was supposed to be teaching English, and I'm teaching like healthy physiology and talking about nutrition and talking about mindset. And I realized that like no one was going to listen to me fully unless I became the doctor. And so the transition was of asking, like, what would chiropractic do for kids in my classroom? And the answer unequivocally was the results I was getting in the classroom could happen. Something that would take me a year to accomplish with teaching strategies could happen in quite literally less than 3 months with chiropractic care. So that was my transition out of the teaching world and into chiropractic school.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And then where did you go to school?
So I went to Life University in Marietta, Georgia.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you and Heather had a vision of moving out to Dana Point.
Yeah.
And you did.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Nobody believed that we would do it.
Because didn't you guys like just visit for like a weekend and you're like, this is it? And then like, how long was it then before you moved out here?
Yeah, so I think I was fourth quarter. So the chiropractic school I went to was on a quarter system.
Sure.
So we were school year round with just a few breaks in between. Heather and I decided pretty early on, I think fourth quarter, that we were going to open our practice together. And that we were going to have a family practice, and Heather was going to run the office, and I could do the adjustments. And when we decided that, we realized that we love the weather in Georgia. Like, there's no winter. I mean, there's a winter, but it doesn't snow. So we certainly weren't going to go back to Indiana.
Winter.
Yeah, exactly. So it gets like 34, 35, but it doesn't really snow there.
Yeah.
You can hike all year long and just enjoy outdoors.
Yeah.
So we decided, okay, if we're going to open up our own practice, we're not going back to Indiana, and we're not going to stay in Georgia. Where would we go? And we had two real stipulations, one of which we had to be near water, and two, it had to be as close to summertime as we could possibly have year-round, because Heather and I are both hot weather people. That limits the U.S. down to like California and Florida, and specifically Southern California. So we decided like Florida was out. It's kind of an old people place. We didn't really want to go there. We wanted to be where we could be by the mountains and like surf and things like that.
Yeah.
So we just traveled the coast. And we traveled all the way from quite literally like Half Moon Bay all the way to San Diego.
Oh, wow.
Hit every beach town along the way because, like I said, we wanted to be by the beach. And that led us to stopping in Dana Point. We fell in love with it. We were here for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And we were kind of like, you know, like I said, this is a year into the chiropractic program of 3.5 years. We decided, like, this is probably the place. So that's where it started. And then the next year we came back and we stayed only in Dana Point for 2 full weeks to try to pretend like we were locals to see if we could really live here.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
That's so
yeah,
awesome.
We made it happen.
Yeah. So then when did you finally, how long have you lived in Dana Point now then?
Quite literally, it was 2 years last month.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I can't believe it's already been 2 years. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Oh my gosh. Dana Point is pretty magical though. Like it's a really, really cool community. Like I don't know. I love it.
It's like sleepy beach town.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we wanted. Everything closes at 9.
Yep.
You know, there's not like a huge party life, and that's what we wanted. We wanted a place where we could raise our family that's quiet.
Yep.
And it's growing, but I think it will be all for the good, so.
Yeah. Well, and Dana Point is also, it's kind of like where it is, it can't grow too much, which is kind of cool. Like it's already kind of developed out to almost its max capacity. So it's like, it's only going to get like a little bigger, and then that's about all it's going to do. So it kind of gets a bad rap, I think, because it's in Orange County, and so everyone's like, "Oh, Orange County."
Yeah.
But it's so different than like the rest of Orange County. It's not Newport Beach. Don't think that.
yeah, for sure.
All right. So then you came to Orange County, and you. Well, wait, no. I want to back up a little bit. So you mentioned earlier about like that you wanted to function optimally, and that's why you started seeing a chiropractor.
Mm-hmm.
And it had nothing to do with back or neck pain.
Yep.
And so it seems like that's like a common, like that's almost, I mean, I think that almost everybody that I know that like maybe like 5 years ago or so, like that was seeing a chiropractor, it was because they had back pain.
Sure.
Like almost everybody. And so, is it that there used to be like the education in chiropractic school is changing, or like what would you say like the evolution of chiropractic care is, and like, or has it always been for the entire like just self and health, or?
Yeah, so when the profession of chiropractic was founded, it was actually founded because someone realized, and this goes back all the way back to Hippocrates, by the way. One of his quotes is like, "Look well to the spine for the cause of disease." So even Hippocrates was trying to figure out what's the cause of disease. It's like these symptoms aren't the cause. There's something making the body have these symptoms.
Yes.
And so from that, the developer of chiropractic, who was D.D. Palmer, he was the one who did the first adjustment. So when he did the first adjustment, he had a janitor that was working for him in one of his labs, and the guy couldn't hear in one ear. And what D.D. realized is like all of the nerves that come out of the top bone of the spine also go to the ear and to the vestibular system. So he just had the question, what if I tried to move those bones? What would happen? And so he adjusted this guy. It was like the first adjustment, and his hearing was restored.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So this is like this insane thing, and he's like, all right, maybe I'm onto something. So Didi wasn't actually like a magician with the chiropractic thing.
Sure.
His son BJ took over and was a great marketer of it. So BJ literally, like his thing was like, we should be able to clear out the prisons. We should be able to clear out insane asylums, and that was like his mission.
Wow.
And so they were literally adjusting people to create, not for neck pain, back pain. But what has happened is we realized that it's somewhere along the way. There are many things that like led up to this, but that's a political conversation that we won't go that route.
Sure.
We've kind of shifted, I think, as a whole chiropractic profession, and forgetting why it was originated in the first place. And it wasn't originated to help people with back pain. Yes, we can do that. It was so easy to get people out of pain. But these experiences, like quite literally, BJ was buying insane asylums, and like that's where they were teaching, and they were like literally clearing these places out.
Oh my God.
And through a series of processes, which are our own fault in the chiropractic profession, most of what we market now is just neck pain, back pain, and headaches, and we're not actually telling the full story. And this is where I feel like it's my responsibility to let people know that the full story is like your maximum potential comes through your nervous system, and that's what we work with as chiropractors, and that's what like anything you want to experience in life, no matter what your age is certainly possible.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I love talking to you about this stuff because you're super passionate about it.
Yeah, I get fired up.
And I love it. So why don't you talk a little bit about the nervous system and why an unhealthy nervous system impacts the body so much?
Yeah, for sure. So we have to start with the premise of if you don't have a nervous system, then life is not possible. Like quite literally, if you cut the connection between your brain and the rest of your body, then your body will die and you will no longer have life. So if there's interference to that system, to that communication, then your body's not going to function as well as it could, as well as it should. And so this comes down to the fact that your nervous system literally controls every cell, every tissue, every organ function in your entire body. And like some people would argue that it's chemistry, but that chemistry, like we can take calcium and we can take carbon and we can take potassium and we can put those things in a jar, but it doesn't animate, they don't have life, right?
Yeah.
So there's something else, and that something else is the animation of life is through the nervous system, through these electrical signals. And so that's how we experience life. So if it's not functioning well, then your life experience isn't going to be what it could be. And so how this whole thing works is that 90% of the nutrition and stimulation to your brain comes from properly moving joints of the spine. So if 90% of it's just like a muscle, right? If we go and flex our biceps and we work out our biceps, they're going to get bigger. Well, the same thing is true is that if we have joints of the spine that are moving well, then our brain is going to be stimulated in a way that it functions better. And those functions include, like better memory, better learning, more focus, more concentration, like better sex life, making more money, making better decisions, being physically more active, like experiencing stronger muscle contractions. And all this stuff is shown through the research. But it's really easy to talk about neck pain and back pain, and it's much harder to understand all of the physiological processes along the way that lead people to just living a fruitful life, doing what they love to do, not deteriorating as they live. So that's why the nervous system, and there's much more detail and science that I could go into, but
Sure.
Unless you want me to, I won't go there. So.
Like, I want you to, but I also have other questions that I want to ask you. So
yeah, for sure.
So what would like the process look like for someone who came to see you? Like, I know what it is because I was lucky enough to be under Dr. Daniel's care for a while, and then I moved, and now I'm not. But so I know what it is. But why don't you tell everybody else? Like, what could people expect, like, walking into your office?
Yep, for sure. So our process is pretty different. First thing we do, we won't adjust anyone without doing an exam first. So first thing we do with everyone is I sit down personally with them and I have a consultation. And so in that consultation, we just talk about any concerns that the person has, like what stuff they have going on. Lots of people do have pain, and so I want to be aware of those things. And then from that conversation, we set goals. And the goals are important because a lot of what, some people say, well, I want to get out of neck pain. And they're like, but there's more to it than that. It's like, why do you want to get out of that pain? Is it because you want to experience something that you're not experiencing? Is it preventing you from getting on the floor and playing with your kids?
Right.
And like, those are the things that we're really after, is like changing people's quality of life. So from those goals, then we decide, if you and I were sitting down together, whether you're even a good fit for our office. So some people, and I'm okay with telling people this, is like some people just aren't a good fit for us because they want a quick one adjustment fix for all of their issues.
Yep.
And that would make me no different than a natural Tylenol. And that's not how I practice. And so if they're a good fit for the office, then in that same visit, what we would do is we do a full neurological evaluation. I'm big on the brain and how the brain communicates to the body. And so they're with posture, with their cerebellar tests that we can do and brainstem tests that we can do to see how your body's physically functioning, so that I have objective data to then measure whether you're getting the results. And what happens is that as your objective data gets better on the tests that I do, your quality of life always increases with that. Even when people who say they're good, they still have super crazy experiences that are like, I'm just less stressed and I feel more calm and I'm sleeping 8 hours a night without being interrupted. So after we go through consult, we do the neurological exam, I'll do a chiropractic exam, physical exam, we do a thermography scan so I can actually measure how your nervous system is either stuck in stress mode or in healing mode. And then from there, I give recommendations. In those recommendations, like I said, we don't just adjust someone one time, we put them on a plan. Each plan is individualized based on what they have going on that I find in the exam, and then I present that to them. And we let people decide, either yes, I'm in and I want to commit to radically transforming my life, or no, I want to stay stuck where I'm at.
Yeah. Which, who wants to do that?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So in your experience, like, I've heard so many cool success stories from you, but like, if you could pick like one or two of like your favorite success stories to talk about,
Man.
Yeah. Just go ahead and take a second to mull it over.
Can I share three?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They'll all be short, but I have to share three because it'll give you like the full spectrum of people that I work with.
No, I love it.
So first, I actually just got a text on Thursday night, late Thursday night, from one of our clients who's been with me for almost 12 weeks now. And he's been on Synthroid, which is synthetic thyroid medication to stimulate your thyroid for 20 years. So the thought goes is that if you use Synthroid, then your thyroid stops working on its own, and so you'll have to stay on the drug forever,
right?
Because it can be super dangerous for your heart and some other organ systems if you're not.
Yeah.
So he's been working with me for 12 weeks. We've been measuring his blood.
3 months, by the way.
Yeah, 3 months. So we've been measuring his blood, and so in 6 weeks he cut his medication in half. And I got a text from him, I kid you not, on Thursday, and he said, gone forever, and it's a picture of him throwing his Synthroid into the trash.
Shut up.
This is a 42-year-old guy, ripped six-pack. Like, if you saw him, you would never think he ever had an issue in his life. And he's experiencing, and then one of the coolest things is, like, just to give a little bit of background, I'm going long-winded because I get fired up. As he, they're going through, like, a financial situation because they're trying to buy a house right now, and you know that's not cheap in Orange County.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they were looking at is, like, do we cut chiropractic care from the scenario? And his wife unequivocally was like, you are the guy that I met, not the guy that you've been for the last few years.
Aww.
And it's because cutting that medication out has allowed him to be himself again.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
That is wow.
Yep.
That's just wow. Okay.
Super cool. So that's one.
Amazing.
This is actually a published paper, so if you want me to share it with you, I can. Then you can
Yeah,
put
I can
on the
link
show
it.
notes
Yeah,
or whatever.
awesome.
So 24-year-old girl coming in severe low back pain. This is actually when I was in chiropractic school, and again, this is a published paper, so it's not like I'm not just making any of this up. It's all there's all the data there to support it. Coming in for severe low back pain from stage 4 renal cell carcinoma, which is kidney cancer, inoperable except to just take out her kidney. And so over the course of 3 months of care, she went completely off the kidney transplant list and still hasn't had a kidney surgery as a result. So from being stage 4 cancer to like nearly complete remission.
Wow.
Yeah, super cool.
Oh my gosh. It's just crazy. Like, I love hearing these stories just because it opens your mind to just like how much in this country we treat symptoms and not causes.
Yeah.
Like, we don't try to get down to the root of the system. We're so quick to just like, no, like the Synthroid, like just give him a pill. It's fine. It's fine. Like it's never going to work on its own properly. And so, but there are answers if you're willing to search for them.
Yeah, and the cool thing with the guy with Synthroid too is when we do that thermography scan that I talked about.
Yeah.
So he had been told his whole life, like the doctors really couldn't figure out they're like Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism or like diagnosing him with all these things, and then every person had a differing diagnosis because nothing was just a normal presentation. Right. So when I did the thermography scan, like I said, he never came to me for pain. He was just like, if you say that I can function better, I want to see if I can function better.
Cool.
And what we found in that thermography scan is that he had a bunch of interference to his nervous system at the level of where his thyroid is. And he's like, this has been the first time in 20 years that someone's actually been able to give me a definitive answer on why my physiology doesn't match up to everything that all these other doctors are looking at. Yeah. So again, not hating on the medical profession, but it's just a different paradigm, a different way to look at the body.
Well, that's okay. I will hate on the medical profession a little bit. You don't have to do it because then it might make you look bad, but like I fully have a soapbox about the medical system. Yep. So, which I have ranted about before.
And then like a third, so many cool stories with kids. One of my favorite, I just love this girl to death. So we're taking care of a 7-year-old. She came in severe dyslexia, like way behind, super uncoordinated to where she's like embarrassed. And over the course of just 3 months, mom and her testimonials on our website, so you can like go read what mom says about it too. But completely, like her mom would do these neurological tests that I would do in our office to remeasure. So mom's like doing them with all of her kids, and she's like, what I've noticed with my daughter is that she's blowing away our 16-year-old. Oh she's like so much more coordinated, and she's so much more confident, and she's reading better in school. Like the celebration was, we just had a few weeks ago when school started. Her daughter was given this form to fill out, and like before she wouldn't be able to read it, and she was like, Mom, I couldn't read everything on there, but I could actually like read and know where to fill out like our address and some of the other stuff. So just those little changes is like, again, not pain. There's but like her quality of life as a human is going to be entirely different now for the rest of her life because she's now reading and she's now coordinated and she's experiencing life and can keep up with her siblings. And other parents are noticing like, what are you doing with your daughter? Her swimming's so much better. So that's what it's all about. Super fun.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, and I can speak from personal experience too, in that when I just came to you because I just wanted to function better, like in general. But I've had this problem since college, and it's actually what kind of ended like my long distance like running career, was that I started getting dizzy when I would run outside. And it was so bad that I would get so dizzy that I would pass out. And so basically it made it really dangerous for me to run outside. But you could put me on a treadmill and I'd run and I'd be fine. And I went to so many specialists, like inner ear doctors, heart doctors, respiratory doctors, like all these doctors, and they were all like, we think it's this, and they wanted to put me on like anxiety medication. They're like, it's your anxiety. And I was like, I'm not anxious. What are you talking about? Like, why would you, what? Like, is that really what you're going to do? Is you're going to try and put me on medication for something that I really do not have? And then I just started working with you, and all of a sudden, like, when I would start running like 800 meters like in a workout, I was like, normally that's about like the time frame when I would start to get dizzy, and I was like, hey, I'm not getting dizzy. And then I would start to like run a mile, and I'm not dizzy, and I'm running outside. And then like I was running like a 5K fine, and it actually makes me a little bit sad to say that like I can feel it coming back now that I haven't been under care for a while. But it was just because my C2 and C3 were totally messed up and just under like care for, well, I was probably under care for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Probably. But I would say that I was running like successfully outside again after like 3, probably.
Yep.
So it's just crazy.
And you never told me in the beginning that you had that issue. It just came up where you're like, you know, I used to get vertigo when I would like run outside, and then now it's like going away.
Yeah.
Which
I know.
we see that all the time.
I know. It's crazy. I love it. All right. We're going to talk like briefly, a little bit of like life, and then we got to close this thing out because we've already been yapping for a while.
Yep.
But you are about to be a dad.
I am.
And this is obviously one of my favorite topics right now because I just became a mom like 2 months ago. So, congratulations.
Thank you. You too. It's so exciting.
But what would you say, like, I mean, obviously you don't know yet, but like in your mind, like when you think about it, what is the thing that you're looking forward to most about being a dad?
I mean, like longer term, Heather's gonna laugh because she's gonna be like, "Of course you would say that," but really just being able to enjoy the water with our kid. Like, I can't wait until the day that I can take my kid and like boost them into waves on a surfboard.
Yeah. Oh
that
my gosh, so cool.
If they want to, I'm not gonna force them to do that. So.
They'll want to.
That's a big thing for me, is just being like enjoying and letting our kiddo like just grow and enjoy the things that they love to do, and just being able to explore and play with them. I think, you know, like a little bit younger is just being able to get on the ground, and like now for me to get fascinated by bugs or like ants, which I do. Heather's like, dude, you can't just do that out in public, but I'll have a reason to now because I'll have a kid where I can like fully just love all the little nuances in life again. That's one big thing. And then I think the other thing I'm super excited for, and Heather and I have talked a lot about it, is like just the moment the baby comes, being able to hold and adjust them and make sure their nervous system is like perfect from breath one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. This next question, actually the next 2 questions, I guess, are stolen from Julie Fouché. I love her. I don't know if you ever listened to her podcast.
Yeah,
but,
she's a rock star.
Yeah, she's amazing. But this question is, what are 3 things that you do on like a regular basis that you believe contribute to your healthy lifestyle? And it can only be 3.
Only 3. Number 1 would be, this would have been different 3 weeks ago, for sure. 4 weeks ago now. Number 1, meditating.
Yep.
For sure. I started implementing, everybody's told me for the longest time that, hey, you should meditate.
Yeah.
It's a game changer. I started meditating 4 weeks ago, and I actually have bumped it up now to twice a day instead of just once a day, first thing in the morning.
Cool.
And definitively the way that I interact with people and the way that I see myself as a person has completely changed. And I think so much of like how we experience life is based on who we see ourselves as in the mirror every day. And for me to see me for just authentically me and like not care what anybody else thinks has been a complete game changer. Like for our business, for Heather and I's relationship, for me as a dad, for me being able to like take care of kids in our office. Meditation is 1 for sure.
Okay.
I would say second one, surfing.
Okay.
So surfing's magical for a number of reasons, and just being outside in general, but surfing specifically, you're barefoot on the ground, so you're grounding. You have negative ions from the salt water in the air.
Yep.
So you're literally changing the charge of the electrical charge of your body.
Yep.
And then the third piece of that is you're in the sun, so you're getting vitamin D.
Yep.
And so all 3 of those things together. Actually, I would add a 4th into it, is there's lots of extension in surfing as well.
Yep.
And so extension, as you know, like Joe's doing this now, is she's starting to lift her head off the ground on her tummy. And so that extension is like that, being able to extend like that and lift your head off the ground is so important for your front brain development. And so having a combo of those 4 things, I think, is a complete game changer in my mind. And it's certainly helped me feel like I'm living a super fruitful life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's 2.
That is 2.
You have to wrap it up with this one.
I know, this is a tough one. So 3 things that I do
on a regular basis
that
you believe contribute to your healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, and obviously the third would be getting regular chiropractic care. For sure. Like having a healthy nervous system. I know people are wondering, like you're probably listening, wondering like, how could it not be diet, or how could it not be going to the gym? I'm telling you, a healthy nervous system will allow your body to incorporate those healthy nutrients better.
Yeah.
Having a healthy nervous system will boost your immune system. And so being able to live like the most fruitful life, you got to have a healthy brain and spinal cord.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Good answers. So on the flip side of that, what is the one thing that you have trouble implementing that you think would make you healthier, but you have trouble like implementing it?
Mobility.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
mobility for sure. I mean, every night, obviously, like the nature of what I do, I'm bent over people all day long, so I'm in lots of flexion, which is why I love surfing, because the opposite of that, extension. But being in that lots of flexion makes super tight hip flexors, it puts a lot of strain on the low back. Not to mention my shoulders get rounded forward when I'm bent over people all day. And so every night, I'll get home at the end of the day, exhausted, like my job is physical, I'm on my feet all day, and where it should, in theory, it would be really easy to just sit on the floor and stretch while we watch TV or hang out or eat dinner or whatever it is, or I work on the laptop. Instead, I'll always find myself just like chilling on the couch.
Why is that? I always think the exact same thing. I'm like, oh, I'll roll out tonight, like when I'm just hanging out, and then I never do it.
Never.
And you're not doing anything.
No, nothing at all. It's like it blows my mind. And I catch myself. I literally am like watching myself in a movie. I'm like, you said you're going to do this, but you're just sitting here and not doing it, and you could be on the floor still doing what you're doing, watching TV.
Yes.
And we don't have like cable. We just watch Netflix. But
us too.
Yeah, that's I would say that's the one thing for sure, because I notice when I do it, my body feels exponentially better.
For sure. I can say that, like, so I started implementing yoga every day when I got pregnant, because I wanted to make sure that like my hips were like level and stuff. Like I get a lot of tightness there, and just spending, like, sometimes yoga is more of a workout, but sometimes it's just like that sitting in a pose and kind of like breathing into like those tight spaces, and like, oh man, it makes a huge difference. And I like it because it's like guided in a video, so like I'm definitely holding like a position longer than I would just on my own.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
So it's like yoga Ramwan. All right, so last question is a question that I'm stealing from Michael Caju, who from the Brute Strength podcast. But what is one thing that you hope or would like to see be made ridiculous in 10 years? So let me give you an example. When you see old movies and you see people smoking on airplanes, like now we look back on that and we're like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy. I can't believe that we let people smoke on airplanes.
Yeah.
Or even now I think that it's crazy that we used to have smoking sections in restaurants.
Yeah.
Like, so that's like an example of like, what would you like to see be made ridiculous in, like, so in 10 years, looking back, we're like, I can't believe we did that.
Yeah, I would say definitively diagnosing people with symptoms, like collections of symptoms, and then saying, here's the medication for that. Yep. Instead of asking the question, so for example, if someone has high blood pressure, instead of saying, here's a blood pressure medication, that will certainly lower your blood pressure.
Yeah.
We know it works, but no, without ever asking the question, why is your blood pressure high? And trying to address the cause. I hope that we look back in 10 years and realize that if we address things that are physiologically compatible, like doing chiropractic care and understanding how the nervous system functions, then all of these like ailments where people are stuck on pills for the rest of their lives will completely go away. And I would love to see where we look back and we're like, what were we thinking?
Yeah.
Why did we not just have everybody on the planet under chiropractic care? It would save money in healthcare. It would save money in the amount of care that we need, like end-of-life care for people. It would completely change the game. Yeah.
I mean, people, like, when they think about, like, the monetary, like, expense to, like, shift the healthcare system in, like, a certain direction, they're like, oh, but it's going to cost so much money. It's like, do you know how much money we're spending on, like, unnecessary, like, heart disease and, like diabetes alone, or like obesity? All of those things are literally billions of dollars. Just in the U.S. It's not worldwide. It's just in the U.S. And it's just, if we would just take the time to shift the system a little bit.
Can I give you a little bit of physiology?
I would love it.
So check this out. If you have joints of the spine that are not moving properly, it creates a stress response in the body.
Okay.
In that stress response, your body releases cortisol. So it's the same, it's one of the stress hormones. Cortisol puts sugar in the bloodstream. Sugar in the bloodstream makes your body release insulin. Long term, you get insulin resistance. This is type 2 diabetes. So literally, if we just looked at the physiology in that way and understood how the nervous system played into this, then nearly all of type 2 diabetes could be so radically transformed.
Like eradicated.
Yeah. just through chiropractic care. And obviously, like, diet needs to change too. I'm not being naive to that.
For sure.
But it's just like the diabetes alone is one of the biggest healthcare expenses in the United States.
Yep.
And so, but no one's asking, like, why is their blood sugar high in the first place? Except for looking at diet or just saying, okay, well, we're going to give you insulin now.
Right. Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Truth bombs. I love it.
Yep.
Thank you so much for your time today,
My
man.
pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. This is great.
Appreciate